covered the letters in chapter 1 and 2 to understand the importance of the frame, the narrative frame, and also the setting, the background of this novel. Basically, in chapter 1 and 2, we get to understand what kind of person Victor Frankenstein is and what kind of family he has. And this will be used as a contrast to all the tragedies he come across. And then there is Wharton, the narrator. And Wharton is a kind of mirror posed to Victor Frankenstein. You know, he is similar to Frankenstein, but also different from Frankenstein. So there you get to understand why Wharton can survive, but not Victor Frankenstein. So that's one purpose of the use of the narrative frame. Okay, so these are the things we are going to talk about today. I'll use the documentary as an introduction. This documentary you will be able to get from Inside. Okay, but still, I want to. I think it's quite well made. It's from the Great Book series, and by the Discovery Channel. We have the an English copy in our library, but the one I'm using here is the one with Chinese subtitles. So I think that it could be easier for you. If you, I gave you a summary here. If you're interested, finish the whole documentary by yourself. It introduces the story. It continues to introduce the story, and then it gives some introduction to the theatrical productions of the story, and then the filmic production, and then contemporary versions such as there's a comedy called Young Frankenstein, a very interesting comedy. And then there are also comics and the other like Dracula, werewolf, vampire variations of the Frankenstein story. Okay, so basically, I think Frankenstein is a very important novel, not only because of the idea of it uses about science, the scientific invention, but also because the singular novel itself can encompass so many related plots, so many related themes in contemporary literature. For instance, on the part of scientists' ambition, just now we heard that one person says that it's basically about the story of how we produce something we cannot control. And this is a story like about robot, about computer, about cyborg, clones, etc. You know, the stories, or GM food, nuclear power plant, etc. You know, all the stories that get repeated and over and over in human history. So here, related to the scientists or the academic ambition, we have stories of creation, and then we also have stories of education, like Pygmalion, that we read last time. Okay, it's about this ambition or idealism in changing a person's language in order to change that person's life. Okay, and then of course there is also the story of colonization, which we didn't get to touch on in our class, but it's also a kind of cultural ambition, and an ambition being imposed on something which cannot choose whether to take or not the controls. So on the part of, so this is a part of the ambition or ideal scientist, and on the other hand we have the quote unquote monster, okay, such as cyborg 机器人 Eliza, as a lower class person being lifted out of her background, you know, abruptly, you know, and not knowing where she can land on later on. And then we have Friday, 那叫什么？鲁滨孙漂流记 Robinson Crusoe. You know, here Friday, or in Shakespeare's Tempest 暴风雨, we have, what's his name? Caliban. Yeah, we have Caliban who gets educated. Okay, but then, without getting the position of this education, only getting the language or getting a few pieces of language in order to function for the colonizers. So I think these are the two kinds of stereotypes about not really stereotypes, types, prototypes in human cultures. Which we get to be seeing, we get to see playing, in many literature, films, and the other cultural works between scientists' ambition and the monsters' humanities. And then the question here about science is, whether we really know what we are doing. In every idealistic pursuit, sometimes we can produce something which is out of our control. Okay. So here is just on the scientist part, just some other examples. This is a great film that some of you maybe you haven't seen. 2001, A Space Odyssey, producing by Stanley Kubrick in 1968. It's about the rebellion of a computer. Okay, like the typical phrase he uses is "Hello, Dave." Very sweet, soft. But then this computer rebels and tries to kill all the persons on the crew, on the spaceship. Okay, and then Blade Runner, 银翼杀手. Okay, and then wait, I missed the title. Artificial Intelligence by AI 人工智慧. Yeah. Okay. Where the robot becomes not really a monster, but a cute boy, but disowned by the mother. Okay, and then Island, about cloning. Yes, Okay, okay. So these are the films that you might know, which are related, in the same tradition of Frankenstein. Okay, and then on the side of the monster, of course there are other types of extensions, like post-colonial extensions or class extension. But I just want to bring your attention to one possible extension in terms of postmodern identity, because the monster is actually produced by bits and pieces of courses, bits and pieces of courses, and then put together, stitched together, and then energized by electricity. So basically, there's this idea that all of us may be monsters, or there is monstrosity in every one of us. And then postmodern identity itself, every one of us, is a match of patchwork, a combination of different bits and pieces. And there is no clear line between machine and human beings. You just don't know how much chemical you have in your body. And this is not to mention like denture or glasses or computer. Part of your brain is in your computer. Okay, so the interfacing or the exchanges between human beings and the other inanimate things like the computer, chemical, etc., can be happening every day, every minute. Okay, also with genetic engineering and cloning, sometimes you can be eating something which is not what you thought it was. Like corn can be produced with some other genes, or soybean, 黄豆, can be produced with maybe rat's gene or something else. Okay, so human beings and the other animals' genes are mixed and put together, in different ways, and human identity in this way, can be a patchwork. This is also to consider how much information we are getting every day from every places. So you are not really where you are. Sometimes you can be composed of the Twitter you have, the Facebook, etc. Okay, and then the loss of a cell phone can mean the loss of one part of your identity. So your cell phone is part of you, part of the whole patchwork. Okay, so this is the idea that we can be all monsters, and then it's part of the monster can represent the postmodern identity. Yeah. And then to bring Frankenstein to its own historical background to its own time. Then I have to reinforce this idea of the romantic hero. The romantic hero, as I said, from the first to the second generation of the romantic poets, the romantic hero becomes more and more important because idealism becomes not really the political one, but individual ones. Idealism, the need for revolution becomes individualized, embodied in a hero. First with Napoleon, but then later, through the poets themselves and their radical behavior, such as free love, etc. Okay, and then there were some stereotypes, prototype like Prometheus, as an overreacher, being one type of this romantic hero. Frankenstein is called the modern Prometheus. Okay, so that's one example. And here I included some definitions of romantic hero. That this is a person who usually breaks boundaries, who rebels against norms and conventions, who because of their being radical, can also be rejected. So it's both rejecting and being rejected. Okay, can also be rejected by society. So there is also the issue of isolation, like Frankenstein and the monster being all isolated from human society. And feeling alienated from society. And sometimes they suffer from misanthropy, they hate human beings. Or sometimes they suffer from melancholy, and then they can be driven to wander around because of their discontent or their sense of guilt, etc. And Jane Eyre has registered as one example of romantic hero, and then 咆哮山庄 Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff is another example of the romantic hero. Okay. Okay. On to the background of Mary Shelley. Yes, I think I've covered most of it. She got pregnant at the age of 16, and she wrote this book at the age of 18, younger than you. It's so amazing, right? Okay, and also the fact that there are so many deaths in her life. Okay, her mother's, Harriet committed suicide in the same year when this novel is written. The novel was first produced in the summer of 1816. Harriet committed suicide in winter. Okay, so it's the same year. And then the death of her 2 children. Okay. So yeah, that from the introduction, Byron suggests that they write good stories, and it is said that all these guys, they are above writing novels, so they thought about writing it, but then they never pursue it. Only Mary Shelley continued. Okay. Indeed, at that time, poets and poetry are seen as more superior as an artist or art form. And then novels are 小道. Novels are really secondary, only like popular, for general audience. And poetry conveys imagination, conveys vision. Yeah. Okay. Then about the background of the scientific invention. Mary Shelley mentioned Erasmus Darwin, who is the grandfather of Charles Darwin, and also a very important scientist who invented a speaking machine. Okay, 就这个 machine 自己你可以按键，然后它会讲话。Okay, or horizontal windmill. This I don't have a picture of. Okay, but anyway, Erasmus Darwin is a very ingenious and very productive scientist. And he is one to venture into the idea of generation of life by using a vermicelli, 就是一个线条, and then using 面条, using electricity to stimulate it for it to move, etc. And later, a lot of people imitate him and then study this idea of how life can be generated by human beings. Okay. At the same time, there is the inspiration of French Revolution, which is also seen as a monstrous growth, beautiful, energetic, but also destructive. Ingolstadt, the place where Frankenstein goes to study, is seen as the origin of French Revolution. And also, this southern town in Germany is one filled with a lot of scientific inventions. Okay, so these are the some details about the background for you. Okay, these are the major themes. By now, I think we have covered or touched on the first three. Okay, the first is, I think these are the questions you should keep in mind. And for your information, I thought of what to do on May the 17th. On May the 17th, I'll give you some time to present your ideas in groups about these major themes. Okay, and maybe 2 groups will be recorded discussing with your TA in 2 other rooms. And the other groups will be here presenting your ideas. So basically, I still want to have just 2 midterm exams. Okay, so the novel will be tested on in the final midterm exam. But the way you perform on May the 17th, and which is the last day of our discussion of the novel, will be an important part of your midterm, the final exam grade. In other words, this will be a part of the final exam that we had, before the final exam, okay, in the form of group discussion. So these are the questions that you should really keep in mind, so that you know how to express your ideas on that day, May the 17th, okay. The first, of course, is scientific invention, and the problems it creates. Whether human beings or scientists can play the role of God, what are the consequences that it can happen. And also, along this line, the relation between father and son. Like Frankenstein and the monster, they are father and son relationship, or double. Are they double or father and son? Okay. Of course, related to this is women's pregnancy. Because you never know, at the moment of pregnancy, you never know what kind of baby you will produce. What happens if you really have an abnormal child? Will you abandon it or will you love it less? Okay. There are indeed cases where parents don't want their babies with abnormalities, so their babies are left in the hospital, intensive care, and then die there. Okay, so this is a very touchy issue here. Okay, and then the second, romantic hero. Whether the romantic hero is all justified in doing the lonely pursuit, okay, or whether the romantic hero is glorified at the expense of women. So I think these are the 2, romantic hero versus the role of women and nature. These are the maybe the 2 sides of the same issue that we'll talk more and more about. And then, of course, when we get to see the monster educated, we'll know that he's actually human. So the definition of humanity, what comes into humanity, that's another issue we need to discuss. And finally, the novel's genre, female Gothic. Whether Mary Shelley's Gothic novel produce anything particular about the genre of Gothic, and what that brings into the whole idea of male creation. Whether Mary Shelley is just writing another female Gothic novel, or that she creates a new genre called female Gothic. So that's these are the 3 issues that we the last 2, the roles of women and nature, the genre of this novel. These are the 2 issues we haven't really talked about, but please keep them in mind. We'll get to them very as we go along. Okay. Yeah. Let me give you the questions and then we can take a break. And after the break, I'll finish my analysis maybe in 30 minutes, no, in 20 minutes, and then we'll focus on teach and learn. So when we deal with the letters, I think the question here is why? Why do we want Robert Walton in between us and the story of Frankenstein? What the function he has, okay, in presenting this frame? Okay, definitely, if we talk about this novel as a ghost story or a gothic novel, then Walter serves a function of normality, to prepare us for what is terrible, what is unusual. Okay, this is like the frame of Ozymandias. Okay, but then there should be other functions. In other words, if we compare Robert Walton with Frankenstein, you have. I hope by now you have read chapter 1 and 2. Then you can compare. You can compare Walton's ambition with Frankenstein's ambition expressed in chapter 1 and 2. Okay, and how they are different and similar. Okay. So these are the first bunch of questions, and then the second bunch of questions are about the families. As I said, chapter 1 and 2 serves as a basis or for Frankenstein to later develop into the realms of human creation and then the subsequent tragedies. So we, knowing the types of person he is, the kinds of friends and family relations he has, is very important. Because later on, all of them will be destroyed. Okay, so then we get to see the contrast. Okay, so basically, after the break, I'll briefly introduce to you the friends he has, the kind of parents he has, and how that is kind of the contrast to what he later pursues. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break.